Think about the last time you walked into a Burger King. You probably ordered some food, grabbed a drink, got a toy if you're lucky, and left. The standard fast food experience. But at one point in 2001, the anticipation of walking into a Burger King felt a little different. Because back then, Burger King wasn't just a fast food restaurant, it was a video game store.
Huh? What? Yeah, what?
Video
what was
games.
that?
That's right, at some point in our childhoods, Burger King put actual video games in the kids' meals. And I'm not talking about those silly LCD games. I'm talking X-Men Evolution CD-ROMs for your enjoyment. Plus a figure, but I mean, who wants that when you got this? And these must have evaded me because I really did like X-Men Evolution growing up. It took the classic X-Men and set them in their teenage years. It felt like a fresh take on the franchise and felt just a tad more relatable seeing those younger versions of characters we have all become familiar with. But definitely had no idea that I could be playing a video game that I got with my $4 burgers and fries. So today's walk down memory lane is with these guys. We're going through every single X-Men Evolution toy from this collection, along with the included video games, because apparently Burger King made video games. Who'd have thunk? Now, before we get fully into these, we should probably make sure that they work. And let's just hope they do, because this would be a pretty disappointing video after all that hype. But yeah, there it is. It's real. Burger King made a video game. Let's test it out. And we'll just... okay. Definitely need some older equipment here. So this is kind of what I was afraid of. I'm not 100% sure what the requirements are for this CD-ROM. I'm hoping it's just a Mac issue. So let me pull out some Windows PC and see if it works there.
One eternity later.
So that ended up being quite the task and a half to get this to work. I ended up pulling out my middle school laptop to see if I could get it to work on here, which this was just a nightmare. And after several failures with that, I ended up downloading Parallels on my Mac, which I should have done from the get-go. But hey, we are in business, baby. But before we dive deeper into the games themselves, let's just take a step back for a moment, because these are Burger King toys. So let's talk about the toys. There were 8 in this line that were each a different character figure from the show, though I may argue that we are missing a few key players, but I digress. But we'll look at every one along with their corresponding CD-ROM and see what's really going on here. So here is our first figure. Pretty standard, really. Obviously, Cyclops here. Probably the one that takes his job almost too seriously, though a lot of the times it can be life or death, so I guess he'll get a pass. But this figure doesn't have any articulation, it's just posed, but it does come with a stand to display both the figure and the disc, and kind of a little Easter egg on each of these is a little bio of the character in this little peephole on the side. And then, I mean, I guess it looks cool when it's all together, but it also seems a little impractical for the safety of the disc over time. And one thing I do love is actually looking at the inserts that came with these, because these ones actually come with a coupon for another X-Men game. Burger King, you're giving me a game and then telling me to go buy another game? So yeah, I bought the game. Unfortunately, I couldn't use the coupon because it's actually a mail-in rebate that expired in 2002. But this game kind of reminds me of some of the Ultimate Alliance games, just kind of a beat 'em up with a different skin for each level. Good game, but feels like any other, but this is not why you clicked on this video. So let's finally get into these other games, because I have a lot of questions, like, is it the same game on every disc? How in-depth are these games? Are there other characters in each respective character's game? I genuinely do not know the answers. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of hindering my expectations a little bit, not expecting 3D graphics or even Game Boy Advance quality games like we just saw, but maybe just a few levels of something that will probably feel like a Flash game. But enough talking, let's find out. So once it boots up, we are greeted with the intro to X-Men Evolution, and then we are given a bio of Cyclops, as well as this animation of him as a regular high schooler and as the hero. But then, the options. Xavier Institute or Bayville High. Okay, Colton, this is it. You've wanted this your whole life, to be an X-Man. And just like that, you are in on some superhero training, or a dot comic, which the commercial I was showing earlier did mention these. The one on here follows Cyclops as he struggles to fight on his own, but he just had to realize he had a whole team behind him. And since this is so Cyclops-centric, I will assume we will definitely get a new one of these on every disc. But now for that training. Looks like there are 3 games on here, and right out of the gate, I am fairly confident that these will all be the same on every disc, considering Cyclops is only in one of them. But let's check one of these out, and then we'll see if the others end up being on the other discs. And I guess we'll do Challenge 1, the Ion Neutralizer. And what you are doing here is essentially aiming his blasts at these ions that are slowly creeping their way towards him. They end up getting faster and faster with each level, so it becomes harder to keep up with them, and then once they reach him, it's game over. It's a nice little mini game and can definitely see it being addicting, and I did throw Nightcrawler on there too, and he just teleports over to hit the ions. Okay, so like I said, after booting this up, I do think the games are going to be the same across all the discs, so maybe we'll take a look at the other games later on. But what about Bayville High? This side of the disc I look at as more bonus features, like we get a TV clip. This shows Scott saving their school bus. You also have printable bookmarks of each character. Then we have some wallpapers and a screensaver, the wallpapers also being distinct per character. And the screensaver was the only thing I couldn't get to work on here, and now I just really want to know what it was. But then there is also a yearbook, which is kinda lame. It just has these short little blurbs about each character, including ones that weren't featured in this toy line. And so far, I think this is shaping up to be like what I expected. But let's boot up some more discs, play some more games, and see what else is different. With Nightcrawler, who might be my favorite character from the X-Men Evolution series. He was just always so fun, but loyal, and maybe a bit naive too. And same as the last one, no articulation or anything, but I do think this figure looks really good. But now, boot up the disc! And after booting up and going right for the games, yep, confirmed, these are the same ones as we saw with Cyclops. And obviously we can still play as Nightcrawler in that Ion game, but when we go into the comic, it's all about Nightcrawler on Halloween, hoping to impress this girl and ends up helping a kid whose candy is being taken. And in the Bayville High section, we have Nightcrawler battling Sabretooth, as well as Nightcrawler's own wallpaper. But now let's load up the next disc and play a new game. And this is probably my least favorite character from the series, Toad. And to be honest, I think they did him dirty with this figure. It's just not great. Like, it has the essence, but doesn't really excite me, if that makes any sense. So Challenge 2, Grid Sweeper. And we can actually play as Toad in this one. You want to travel the board to get to the X's that pop up, but whatever squares you choose to land on can only be used a certain amount of times before you lose a life. And then there are trap doors somewhere on the grid too, and the point is really to go as long as you can before you lose all of your lives. And compared to the last one, I do think I like this one a little bit better. Yes, less action-packed, but requires more strategy, which I can appreciate. And before we take the disc out, here's his comic, trying to one-up Quicksilver by stealing a package Magneto sent him to receive, only for it to actually be Magneto's lunch at the end of the day. And then just to pop in to see his wallpaper and his clip, which shows him trying to best Jean Grey. Yeah, right, Toad. Next. And here is Rogue, a great character, just so...
Tonight will be the night that I will fall for you.
Her comic follows her learning to accept her powers a bit more after she stuns her crush on the dance floor and then ends up stealing Toad's powers to help another student. And then I do want to get into the last game here because you can play as Rogue. It's called The Labyrinth. You use your mouse to navigate around a maze, trying to find other X-Men the fastest, so you could end up finding members of the Brotherhood or other traps, which adds to your final time. This game I find to be fine. Other than the others, I think this is more luck than anything. And then Rogue's clip shows her fighting Blob, and then can't forget her wallpaper. So at this point, we are halfway through and now have a pretty good idea of what's on these discs. And so far, it is what I expected, though there is something that is leaving me wanting more, but I'll get to that later. But let's finish looking at these. With Quicksilver, so you can play as Quicksilver on that grid game, but obviously it's all the same. But his comic, I feel, has the most depth. Mystique and Magneto are trying to humble him a bit more because Quicksilver just feels like he's the best best at everything, but he fights with Blob, loses, and Magneto ends up chewing him out for it. Then in his clip, he's actually going up against Spike, and then here's his wallpaper too. Mystique, which there was something about the X-Men Evolution Mystique that sends shivers down my spine versus other versions of the character we've seen. And we see that in her comic as she tries to convince Rogue to join the Brotherhood, only to be caught by Storm in the process. And then more chaos ensues. And then in her clip, it shows her revealing herself as the principal of their school, and then she shamelessly pushes Cyclops off a cliff. Damn. And then of course, here's her wallpaper. And then for Magneto, always a badass. And while I just said he's a badass, his comic is a little weird. He's at the mall trying to show how powerful he is and how weak humanity is, but it's like, seriously, Eric, at the mall of all places? And then in his clip, it shows him talking to the professor about the mutant takeover. I mean, this guy just can't shut up about it. And then of course, here's his wallpaper. And finally, the little guy himself, Wolverine. This is another figure that I think looks really good, though they are shafting this figure a little bit because his claws are webbed. Interesting choice. And his comic, I think, is the best of all of them, the most action-packed, as it follows a fight between him and Sabretooth, and then his clip is him taking down some lasers, and then of course here's his wallpaper. And if you've been super attentive throughout this video, you may have noticed a section that I have omitted so far, the superhero compatibility quiz. And now, feeling fully immersed back into this show, we gotta see who I'm the most compatible with, and Jean Grey. Not bad. But like I said earlier, I do wish there was something more to these discs. Like, it would have been cool to even have an exclusive episode that played across all the discs, to have it be more of an incentive to collect them all. But that's just coming from someone who loves a good collective figure set. Though either way, this was a very interesting look back. I really had no idea what to expect. Like, Burger King did not have to do this. Nobody was forcing them to manufacture 8 individual CD-ROMs and bundle it all together in a kid's meal. And honestly, seems like a wild thing to do in the first place. And you can tell there was a good amount of effort put into these, but it's a shame because at some point in time, these are more than likely to end up at the bottom of a toy bin. And yet, here we are 20-something years later, still talking about them. But it obviously goes to show that they had something special here when the toy itself is kind of an afterthought for the bigger campaign. And it really makes me wonder what else is out there. Because if Burger King was doing X-Men Evolution in 2001, what other fast food video games got completely lost in time? But that might be a video for another day. But for now, if you somehow still have these sitting in a box somewhere, do yourself a favor and dig them out, because the feeling these will bring you, seriously unmatched. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and as always, thanks for watching.
Tonight will be the night that I will fall for you.